In this lesson, we are going to talk about installing the client tools that we need in order to complete the Kubernetes the hard way guide. And there's a couple tools we need to install. These are tools that we need to put on our local workstation. So whatever machine you're going to be using in order to do all the work of getting this Kubernetes cluster stood up, that's the machine where we need to install these client tools. And they consist of CFSSL and kubectl. CFSSL is a tool that we're going to be using to manage our different certificates that we're going to need to create in order to set up the Kubernetes cluster. And kubectl is the Kubernetes client that we can use to interact with our cluster from our local machine. Now, there's some documentation on Kubernetes the hard way that can give you a little more information on how to get these tools installed for different environments. And that documentation includes instructions for both Mac and Linux. I'll be demonstrating how to install them in a Linux environment, but if you want to do it on a Mac, check out that documentation. You can find some instructions for Mac as well. And of course, if you need that link that I have there, check the description of this video below where you'll be able to find that link. And here's what that documentation looks like. As you can see, there's instructions here for installing CFSSL on both Mac OS X and Linux. And here's the instructions for kubectl. So we'll be doing the Linux commands. And be sure to check the description of this video for the commands as well. All the commands that I use to install these tools in a Linux environment can be found in the video description. So the first thing I need to do is I need to install CFSSL, and I just need to download two binaries. So I'm going to do a wget to pull down these two binaries. I have CFSSL and CFSSL JSON. So I'm going to run that command to download those two binary files. And then I'm going to do a chmod to make both of those files executable. And of course, I need to move each file into the appropriate location. So I need to enter my password to do that sudo command to move the file. And then I need to move the CFSSL JSON file as well. So to verify that my install is working properly, I'm going to do CFSSL version. And assuming that everything is installed properly, it's going to return my version information. So that shows me that CFSSL is properly installed, and I'm ready to install kubectl. So I'm going to do a wget to download my kubectl binary. And just like I did before, I need to make it executable with a chmod +x. And last but not least, move the kubectl executable into the proper location with a sudo command. And now I can verify kubectl with kubectl version, but it's very important that I add this -- client flag, because by default, kubectl interacts with the actual Kubernetes cluster, which I have not set up yet. So of course that's not going to work. -- client gives me information about my local kubectl setup, not the remote Kubernetes cluster. So the fact that it was able to return this version information shows me that kubectl is also installed appropriately. So I've installed both CFSSL and kubectl in this Linux environment, and I'm going to be using both of those tools to help set up my Kubernetes cluster.